no preacher or pastor with us tonight, so I'd ask for a spirit of unity and for all of us to use prudence. I'd like to welcome all of our friends and neighbors and colleagues to this regularly scheduled July 20th, 2020 City Council meeting. As you come in the door, there'll be a sign-in sheet on the desk over there, which would be to my right. Please sign. City Clerk, may I please have a roll call vote?
Yes, Mayor Stockford.
Here.
Councilperson Bell. Councilperson Briner.
Here.
Veer.
Here.
Morrissey.
Here.
Sharp.
Here.
Stuchel.
Here.
Pratt. Here. And Zeiser. Is he on? Is Bill on?
Yeah, it looks like Bill's on there.
Okay. So there's 8-1, excuse me.
Okay. Thank you, Katie. We'll move into approval of agenda. Does any member of council or the city manager have any changes that need to be made to the agenda tonight? Hearing no changes, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as written.
So moved.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Briner to approve the agenda as written. May I please have a roll call vote, City Clerk?
Councilperson Briner.
Yes.
Veer.
Yes.
Morrissey.
Yes.
Sharp. Stuchel.
Yes.
Pratt. And Zeiser.
Bill's muted. Can we unmute him?
He's muted himself.
Bill, will you unmute yourself, sir?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was having audio troubles here.
Nope, no problem, buddy. We're voting to approve the agenda. And it's your turn.
Yes.
And Mayor Stockford.
Yes.
8-0 approved.
Thanks, Katie. We'll move into public comment on agenda items only. During this time, the podium will be open. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Please limit your trips to 1 to the podium. And please make sure whatever you're commenting on has a very, very direct tie to something that's present on the agenda. The podium's now open, as well as the virtual podium. Seeing or hearing no public comment, we'll close the podium and we'll move into the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we've got approval of bills, city claims, June 25th, BPU claims, June 25th, payroll, June 25th, city council minutes of June 15th, city council minutes of June 30th, which was our special meeting, election commission minutes, BPU building paving and sidewalk upgrades, and then the BPU North Clarifier suction header sweep replacement. Any discussion on any item in the consent agenda? Councilman Beer?
On the BPU North Clarifier suction header sweep replacement, is that put out for bids? I noticed we just had one in there. Is it just because it's there isn't anybody else to put on it?
Chris?
Hey, I'm here, Mayor. If you could, this is Chris.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so that's a specialized piece of equipment. So there's only one manufacturer that has the print. So we went with them for the parts, and then that's the same company that replaced the gearbox last year, and we did get 3 bids on that, but because they were the low bidder on that one, we asked them to come back and replace this because they're already familiar with what needs to be done.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Any more discussion on any items on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Beer. May I please have a roll call vote, City Clerk?
Councilmember Veer.
Yes.
Morrissey.
Yes.
Sharp.
Yes.
Stuchel.
Yes.
Pratt. Zeiser.
Yes.
Mayor Stockford.
Yes.
And Councilperson Briner.
Yes.
8-0 approved.
Thank you, Katie. We will move on to communications petitions. First item on communications petitions is Megan Stiverson, District Court Judge candidate. I don't see Megan with us tonight at this point. Megan, are you online? I guess Megan didn't make it, and of course she'll have another opportunity during final public comment if she does happen to show up. So we'll move on to Hillsdale Airport fly-in, verbal update. Ray, did you want to handle that?
And I believe Ginger is on the line as well.
Okay, well I thought it was an Exchange Club event, so.
Kind of a both.
It's a little bit of both, so if Ginger wants to chime in, or, I can do it. It's up to her.
Okay, well,
Well, I was not at the Exchange Club meeting, so
Okay.
I don't know exactly what you guys said.
So, I'll give an update then on the fly-in. The Exchange Club, with all the changing in the recommendations and everything like that, and with COVID, Exchange Club has decided not to do the fly-in this year. We've been in touch with the city and come to an agreement that, it's probably best as the fly-in brings in, well, I want to say probably, close to probably 3,000-4,000 people come through there on an annual basis. I know we feed about 1,000 people, and then there's people that just come to enjoy the fly-in and don't actually eat breakfast. So, it was a heavy decision for the board members and the Exchange Club, but we feel, for trying to put everybody's safety, in the front of everything else that's going on. So, unfortunately, this year's fly-in has been canceled, and we'll look, next year, I think is, I think it's gonna be September 13th or something like that next year. Can't remember
I
exactly.
think it's 12. Right, I think it's the 12th. It's a Sunday.
Okay, yeah, Sunday, next year, September 12th, we'll look at, going back to normalcy, hopefully, by then.
thank you, Ray. Any questions for Councilman Briner? Hearing none, we'll move on. Item C is the 2020 Hillsdale County tax foreclosure parcels. Those are available in the packet. Item D is MEDC small business funds received. Dave, was there anything you wanted to say about that?
That was just a press release. MEDC has been very active in trying to work with small businesses to keep them going during this time of shutdown. And that press release just identified a number of businesses and a fairly sizable amount of funds that were dedicated to helping them weather the storm. Now, when these programs come in, Kelly LaPresto in my office usually gets them out to everyone, all the small businesses in town, so that they could take a look at them and see if it's something that they could apply for and move forward with. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you, Dave. Any discussion, any questions for Dave about that? Okay. We'll move on. Communications and petitions. Item E, MEDC community thank you letter for Dawn Theater. Councilman Stuchel or Councilman Veer, I see you guys both signed this. Would one of you two would like to read this?
Sure. The letter states, our wonderful city is 150 years old, and it's on the edge of a new dawn. Last month, Dawn Theater construction officially began, scaffolding went up, and crews started interior demolition on historical space. Original windows covered up since 1960 saw daylight again. The dated paneling inside and out has come down, and the theater's old beauty is visible once again. Thanks to the help from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, MEDC, Hillsdale has received over $4.2 million and is starting to prosper once again. Over the past several years, the state of Michigan has directed resources to Hillsdale to help us grow, to start new businesses, increase job opportunities, preserve our history, our character, encourage new investments, and overall improve our quality of life. graduating from the program Project Rising Tide, and being certified redevelopment-ready community laid the groundwork for the city's bright future. Thanks to the help from MEDC, some of our historical obsolete buildings, such as 42 Union, have been revitalized and made new. Damaged roads have been repaired, and funding has provided improved Stocks Mill and rental rehabilitation projects. The Dawn Theater has been a point of pride for Hillsdale, and with this renovation, it will continue to play an integral role in the city. When construction is finished, the Dawn Theater will serve as a multi-purpose space event for banquets, weddings, and live entertainment. It will become a hub of activity for everyone. The theater's progress is built from the dedication from MEDC to our community. Investment creates more investment, and there is so much more to come. On behalf of the people of Hillsdale, some who have signed this letter, we would like to formally thank MEDC for its continued commitment to our city as we look forward to an opening of the new Dawn. And if anybody would like to add their name to this, we're going to send this out tomorrow. And we have about 35 so people on this letter so far.
Thank you, Councilman Stuchel. Any questions for Councilman Stuchel about this? Thank you, Councilman Stuchel.
Yep.
Did you have more to say?
No, I said yes.
Okay. We will move on. There's no introduction, adoption of ordinances, public hearing. So we'll move into old business, Fayette Street update. Jake?
Thanks, Mayor. I'm gonna kind of hit this from a macro and then probably let city engineer Kristen Bauer take over, but I'll just remind everybody, we did on that project, this is the second time we bid that out. If you recall, the first time we had some issues with DEQ right near late in the game that affected the culvert quite substantially. We thought maybe we could work through that, and what we found was it was better to make some engineering changes, some design changes, and rebid the job out, rebid the project out. I'm gonna let city engineer Bauer take over at this point. She has the specific numbers, I guess, probably a little closer to the tip of her tongue right at the moment, so you can take over, Kristen.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. Mr. Mayor and Council, we did receive bids on July 10th for that rebid on that project. At that time, the low bid came in at just over $1 million, which was about $150,000 less than what the previous bids had been. Some of that had to do with some of the stuff that we removed from the project that wasn't entirely necessary to be done. And then there was additional cost for the wider culvert. So we offset the cost for the wider culvert with the changes that we made. We were still about $100,000, $120,000 over the engineer's estimate. A lot of that has to do with that culvert, which is much wider. It's a delivery issue, it's a constructability issue, so we're comfortable with the numbers that we have. Hoffman Brothers was the low bidder previously, and they are still the low bidder. They're looking to do work this fall, albeit that's going to be predicated on the delivery of that culvert, because that culvert is a long lead item. We have talked with Hoffman. There will be no time that would be an extended period of time when traffic would be on that road without some sort of temporary and or permanent pavement, so you don't need to be concerned about that. Very cognizant of those issues from previous projects, so we will keep that under control. But he is looking to do that work this fall. You have to wait for notice to proceed from the state of Michigan to get going on that, and we should be getting that here in the next couple weeks. So I'm encouraged that we'll be doing that this fall, and it'll make my fall very busy.
Thank you, Kristen. Any questions for Kristen or Jake? Councilman Morrissey?
Yes, I do. I have one. Will we be able, I know COVID-19 is out there and all that, but will we be able to have a meeting with the affected neighbors to that project to keep them informed?
Well, we could have a meeting, I suppose. However, my normal operation has been to put together an informational letter and directly mail that to all the residents. There's only, besides the church, I think there's 6 houses that are impacted, so it's not a large number of residents. One house is owned by Hillsdale College. the schedules once I know it, so that they are aware of the project.
Well, if you do the mailing, since that's not gonna cost very much, I suggest doing it also to some of the people on a couple of the side streets there, like McClellan, those streets there, because those people will be affected by the project, even though they're not directly affected by it.
And that's very easy to do in a mail merge, so I don't have any problem doing it. I also do not have a problem doing a public meeting, I just don't know. In all of my work, I've always done this, and I give them a number, and on occasion give them my email address, so that there's email updates. I usually have an email group too, so that's worked very effectively, just because they know who to get a hold of, and they know what to expect.
Thank you, Kristen. Councilman Stuchel?
Yeah, just a simple question. Do you have any guesstimate on completion? Just a guesstimate?
Well, the actual completion date is July 30th, 2021. The reason we did that was because of the lateness of the year, they will not be able to get plantings done. So in the MDOT world, there has to be a completion date that encompasses getting turf established and all that kind of stuff. That all being said, this contractor wants to do the project this fall. However, the DEQ permit only allows us to do work in the river from now until February 28th, and then not again until June. So the stipulation in our contract with this contractor is they have to have that culvert in before the end of February.
Okay.
So worst case scenario is they have the pavement they have all the pavement and storm in on Fayette, not completely paved. They go into the winter, get the culvert put in, and then we got temporary pavement over the culvert. So in the spring, as soon as the asphalt plants open back up, which is generally about the end of April, they come in, take up the temporary pavement over the culvert, and then pave the entire job. So a lot of it's going to depend on the delivery of the culvert and weather. So I would say that we are going to have most of the 75 to 80% of the project built this fall, and then probably the last 20 to 25% done in May. So it is going to be stepwise, it is drawn out, but we thought it really important if a contractor had a window to do that project this fall, because it's been kind of dragging out. We wanted to get the project done, get the curbs in on that road, sidewalks done. But because of the way the permits and timing with weather, that's kind of the long answer to your question.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Beer?
Yeah, Kristen, have you had direct knowledge as far as working with Thompson Construction? And if so, what were the results of past experiences with them?
That's a good agenda item. Do you want to talk about that now, or wait until we... Did you mean Hoffman Brothers or Thompson?
No, Thompson.
I'm sorry?
Thompson.
I did a project with Hoffman Brothers in Marshall. They did a very large water main projects, and I did work with them, and I've had very good experiences with them.
Oh, I'm just because I'm looking on my. It's under the next item. Okay.
I've also worked with Thompson Construction on multiple projects very satisfactorily as well.
Okay, because on the bid prices, there's a pretty big discrepancy between them. And then what would you attribute that to?
I talked with, actually I've been actively talking during the bidding process with Matt, their estimator. They have a bunch of small work, and they come in first or second on a lot of big work, and they weren't awarded that work. And so he wanted a big project, and he wanted to get back into Hillsdale to do some work. So he very aggressively bid this. I knew that going in because I had multiple phone calls from him, but I talked with him afterwards, and he said, yeah, he was pretty aggressive with his pricing. Two of the bidders, Thompson or Michigan Paving, and I lost the other guy.
Lakeland or Quality?
Lakeland.
Okay.
They bid $100 a ton for asphalt, which tells me they wanted to put in a price, but they Paving is really busy with MDOT work, and he told me, a lot of times these bidders will put their prices in to keep their names in front of you, but they don't, you know, if they got the job, they do the job at the higher rate, but they don't necessarily want the job, just based on the pricing I saw on the units. So,
Okay, well,
very,
Kristen, if I may, I will also add that Thompson has done a lot of work on our street preservation the last 2 years. The mill and overlay work on Hillsdale Street, and a lot of the full depth spot replacements of asphalt. So we have quite a bit of experience with them.
okay, I'm good.
Dave, did you have something to say?
Just a couple comments, Mayor, for the council and the public. What we passed in the budget for this project for this year was 1.1 million. So we're actually about $50,000 to the good at this point. That gives us some room if there are some any adjustments that we have to look into. But we feel pretty good about the price given what we've budgeted, as well as Kristen had indicated, we absorbed about $100,000 increase on the size of the culvert that Eagle and DEQ or Eagle required to be put in there. So we not only were able to save or bring the cost down of the project, which was the original reason we rebid it, but we were able to absorb the increased cost of the culvert size. So I think that was a win-win for us. And then just to remind you, Kristen will be managing the project through construction, so we will be offsetting those funds for her cost as well. So when I say it's a win-win, it's as we hoped at this point.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Dave. Any more discussion, questions on it? Okay, very good. We'll move on in the packet.
Not at this time.
Just a verbal update. Thank you all. We will move on to item A, miscellaneous. That's just where we were at. Item B, New Year's Eve.
We're doing this one.
Okay, I'm sorry, I got lost because we were talking so much about Thompson Construction, so. Okay. Item A, miscellaneous paving and concrete work. City staff developed requested bid for several paving and concrete projects within the city to be completed during the 2020 construction season. The work to be completed is generally described below. As the work and funding sources were different, the bid package was portioned out into different distinct parts. Part 1, funded by MDOT Office of Rail, Local Grade Crossing Program, milling, resurfacing, sidewalk construction, sidewalk removal, replacement, and other miscellaneous work in the area of the crossing removals. Part 2, covered under a different memo via the BPU board. Part 3, funded by a private funding source, not city funds, asphalt crushing, shaping, paving of an existing 16 by 760 foot paved alley between North Manning and Northwest Streets, bounded by College and Fayette Streets. Part 4, which would be funded by the city's major street funds, miscellaneous full and partial depth asphalt patches on South Howell Street, bounded by Bacon and Hallett Streets. Bids were received on July 6, 2020 for the above stated work and are presented below. Part 2 bid information is provided under another memo and presented to the City Council by the BPU. And you can see the bids down here, all 4 parts. City staff recommends City Council award all parts of this package to Thompson Construction of Coldwater, Michigan in the amount of $92,760.85. Anything to add, Kristen?
no, Mr. Mayor, I believe I listed there exactly what rail crossings were being removed. Did I not, or do I need to further explain that?
I'm I'm sorry, I don't see it.
Okay, so we were approached by, well, both I&E Railroad and the Office of Rail. I&E Railroad is removing the tracks from Union Street all the way to Carlton. And in doing that, they're removing the crossings, and they're going to fund the the fixing of the road for an area right around those rails. So in addition to that, the crossing on Carlton, going into Stocks Mill, which is a privately owned rail, we talked with the owner there, and he agreed to remove that rail. As he would not be able to use it in its current condition if they decided to use rail back to that site, because they'd have to rebuild it to current day standards. So he's not on the hook for any funds to do this. This is all being funded by the Office of Rail in their program to remove unused rail crossings. The nice thing is you don't have the bumps in the road for traffic, and you can take out all the signage and all the road pavement crossings, so school buses and other trucks don't have to stop at these crossings any longer, and it will fix up the areas. So it's a good program. We did talk with the owner, and we have talked with Officer Rail. Should the owner of Stocks Mill have the need to put in rail again, the Office of Rail generally is very amenable to doing that for economic development. So we don't foresee there being any problem in the future. If somebody there wants rail service, it should be able to be reestablished.
Thank you, Kristen. Councilman Stuchel.
Just a question, just for my own understanding. Have you ever looked at crushed asphalt? Is there a reason, can you educate me on crushed asphalt versus virgin asphalt?
We use it, actually, that's what we're doing with the alley, is we'll crush it, we'll pulverize it in place, mix that asphalt in with the grade below it, and then pave over top of it. It allows you to have it allows you to use that material to reshape it as opposed to gravel, so there's a time and a place for it. Curb street areas, you don't generally want to do it because when you crush it, it fluffs everything up, and then when you have to haul it off to get it back down to match the curb can, you end up hauling it all off anyway.
Okay.
When non-curb sections and that kind of stuff, it's good base because you maintain that asphalt that you have there, and it gets mixed in with the gravel, so once you compact it, it makes for a very, very sturdy base.
Okay.
In areas where you don't have gravel under the roadway, and it's virgin soils and native soil, it really doesn't function real well, so you kind of have to assess each individual street to see if that's a good process to use, but we try to use it as much as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Boy, you're just paying for yourself, Kristen. Councilman Beer.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Kristen, this is Councilman Beer. I just wanted to apologize. I was in the new business on this one. I was asking you those fast questions, so being that you already answered them, I don't need to ask you again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I have one more question.
Go ahead,
But actually, this is for
Councilman
city manager. On the sidewalk improvement, I know this is a tickler with Mr. Sharp, because we definitely have some sidewalk issues across the city. Is there any thought about looking at where a homeowner or somebody's doing some massive work, major re-improvements, that we go into those areas and, at least in front of their house or corner, to update their sidewalks if they're in bad shape? Just as an incentive, somebody goes through and, resize new windows and, maybe puts a new driveway in or whatever, where we can go in as a city to say thank you and help increase the improvement of the property.
Well, we're currently, Councilman Stuchel, as part of these other projects, we are trying to address some of the worst spots of concrete in the city, or sidewalk. But that is, I would say that's part of our upcoming infrastructure plan we're looking at. Fortunately, we're focused on some of these bigger projects, but the idea is, we've been budgeting the $50,000 for sidewalks the last few years, is to start utilizing that money moving forward. So we will have a plan for that coming forward, and it could include some of the things you're talking about.
Okay.
And just to kind of add to what Kristen said about the crushing the base, that would be an example of what we did on Hallett Street as well. We pulverized the street and then used that and mixed it for the base, and then laid over top of it.
So that's crushed asphalt on, it's a beautiful road.
Yes. I did want to make mention, Mayor, part 3 of the bid, where that an alley is being paved, that and paid for by a third party. The college is actually paying for that component of it, so that, as Kristen said in her summary, that is being paid for by a third party. The college is paying for that complete project. So I try to. I knew that would.
Mr. Dave, can I also add something on the sidewalk?
Sure, go ahead, Kristen.
So, just so the council knows, one of the things that I have begun doing, however, with all these other projects, and we're about to kick off all these contractors for water, the lead line replacement, Fayette Street, I've gotten really, really busy with that stuff. However, I have gone through and updated our road soft program, which is a program that's free to us through Michigan Tech that we use for road grading. They also have a sidewalk module, so I've now added in all the sidewalk. The next step will be when I get a moment to breathe, I'll go out and rate all the sidewalk on a good fair pour with the intent that next year we will put out a bid for sidewalk repairs after we come to council with the plan, what the ordinances say regarding sidewalk replacement, and work through that process. So I envision that you probably see that from me probably over the winter, being that my schedule is going to get pretty full once Fayette kicks off. So that has been started, but this year, just timing with me coming on in February and the other projects that needed more immediate response from me, I wasn't able to get a contract out this year, and at this point, concrete contractors are busy, so it just makes more sense to do that in the spring when everybody's looking for work. So that is coming.
Very good. Councilman Sharp.
They have done certain sections of sidewalk pieces here and there,
Mhm.
where, including my area where I had a former city tree they took out and caused my sidewalk to raise up, and it became a trip hazard. I actually saw somebody, one of the professors from the college that lives up on Cold Springs Park area up there, almost fall down and trip. And that's when it became a big concern of mine, and they did come and replace the 2 sections. And it's now safe. It was a big trip hazard. I was very concerned about people walking there. And I do appreciate the city reacting on that. That's kind of what they're doing right now. They're just looking for the worst spots first and getting to them. And there have been some sections I see around town they have done. And it's very appreciated.
Thank you, Councilman Sharp. Any more discussion, questions? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to award all parts of this bid package to Thompson Construction in the amount of $97,760.85.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion on the, man, this was like simultaneous if I've ever heard it before. We'll go in alphabetical order. Motion on the floor from Councilman Veer, seconded by Councilwoman Pratt. May I please have a roll call vote, City Clerk?
Councilperson Morrissey,
Yes?
Sharp,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Pratt, Sizer,
Yes.
Mayor Stockford,
Yes.
Councilperson Briner,
Yes.
and Veer.
Yes.
It's all approved.
Thank you, Katie. We will move on to item B in new business, New Year's Eve bash discussion. New Year's Eve's committee is comprised of city employees, members of the community. Committee has met and discussed concerns and options regarding hosting and planning an event for this year in regards to gathering limits, social distancing. Historically, we have reserved and made down payments before this time of year for buildings and attractions that include fireworks and an ice skating rink. Current issues include a non-refundable down payment for the skating rink, and we were not able to rent buildings in the fairground at this time if the event will have more than 10 people for an indoor gathering and no more than 100 for an outdoor gathering. The gathering limits may change if our region moves to stage 5 of the reopening phases. However, our event exceeds that limit also. We discussed if we should attempt community donations this year amidst current events and did send donation request letters. As of this date, we have only received 1 donation. A grant application was submitted to the Community Foundation and we were approved for $10,000 towards fireworks and the ice skating rink. This does not cover the entire cost of the 2 events. Of great concern to the committee is not being able to raise the required needed funds and the possibility of having to cancel the event, which would lead to the loss of donated community money. The committee requests council discussion regarding an event this year. Okay, I guess I'll,
Mayor?
Yeah.
I know Chief Hebner is on the line,
okay.
and he's part of that committee and wrote the letter, so it might be appropriate to ask him if he has any comments first.
Chief?
Yeah.
Any in-
Thanks, my mic here. Are you able to hear me?
Very well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, not a lot to add. We did have the entire committee has met. We do have concerns regarding reaching our goal. We received in excess of $18,000 last year to hold our event. Again, we had reserved everything prior to this time. That's not possible this year. The one event that we know we cannot get our 50% down payment back is the skating rink, which was a huge success last year. And they will only give us, it was either 8 or 10 months to reschedule, which means we would have to hold a second event prior to next winter just to get the skating rink here and not lose money. It does not seem very viable to go with that. Everything we had done and moved towards last year being our second event was more kids activities, which was a huge success for our community, which we would have to greatly limit this year. Not knowing if we're going to be able to rent the space, which the buildings we rented at the fairgrounds was very less expensive than renting the large tents that we did the first year. Plus, if the weather was inclement, it was a better option than the tents. So our concern was asking for donations, receiving donations. Our greatest concern is that we would lose any of the community money. We absolutely do not want to do that. Even though we have been notified that we were approved for the $10,000 from the Community Foundation, the paperwork has not been signed yet. And we would actually feel pretty bad if this money was needed towards some other entity in our community during this pandemic, not knowing how the rest of the summer or the fall is going to be at the beginning of the next winter. We know they like to support community events. We appreciate that. But we don't want to lose any community businesses or anything else if that money can be put to a better use. So with that, we respectfully present this item with our concerns for council discussion prior to us making a final decision.
Thank you, Chief. I would say my own personal opinion is I would hate to see it get canceled, but I mean, you guys are the ones that do all the work on it. So I think I can speak for all of council. I think whatever decision you guys feel is the right decision, we all trust your judgment on it. Of course, it breaks my heart if you guys think that the best thing to do would be to cancel it, but I know this is a city event, but I almost don't feel appropriate having council make the call on something like this. You guys are the ones that do all the work on it, so.
Yeah, we're not requesting that you make a decision. We just wanted you the opportunity to enter into the discussion, and we will make the final decision. But
Sure.
we wanted to bring this to you. You've always been up to speed on this event ever since the very first thought of it, the very first year. You've been updated on it, so we felt it was most appropriate to bring it before you and let you have the opportunity to make any statements you wanted to.
Sure. Well, my opinion is whatever you guys decide to do, I'm in support of that. So, Councilman Beer, did you have something to say?
Yeah, you said, okay, you're short, so am I assuming that you're short from last year, you had 18,000 and you're short 8,000, is that correct?
Right now, yes.
Okay, and then on the second question, you already put a deposit for the skating rink down?
No, we have not.
Oh, but if you were to, you would not be able to get it back?
Right, if we had to cancel, could not have the event, that rink was absolutely packed the entire 3 or 4 hours that we rented it for. Knowing that they could not operate it and that
able to utilize it. That was pretty expensive, I think $6,500 to $7,000 for that. And it's not about the money. If we could raise the money, it'd be great. It would be a shame if we had youth show up and not be able to utilize it because of gathering numbers or other reasons, because of the people who own it and how they manage it. They may not allow only X amount on it at a time. We're just not sure how we can work that out this year, but no, we had not raised enough money, and again, we wanted to bring it before council just to let you have some type of input or discussion points before we made any decision, and definitely before we send any money out.
Okay, so then currently, you guys are not out any money right now?
Correct.
Councilman Sharp.
I'm gonna agree with you on this. I would like to have the committee, whatever they do, we'll support them on it. I mean, they put the legwork in on it, so why not? Whatever their recommendation is, we'll go along with it.
I agree. Any more discussion?
Yeah, I agree with that too.
All right. This is sad stuff. We're talking about New Year's, but I don't think people realize how much planning goes into this sort of stuff, so it's unfortunate that we're even having to have this discussion, but I think all of council agrees, Chief. Whatever you guys decide, we're all in support of, and we appreciate all the work you guys have done the past couple of years on it. And boy, it was last year was so cool to see how much it had grown in 1 year. And I spent a lot of time down there, and it was a lot of fun. So, any more?
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any more discussion on it, guys? Okay. All right. Well, we'll move on. We've got no proclamations, no appointments, nothing in miscellaneous reports. So we'll move into general public comment. During this time, the podium will be open, and the virtual podium will be open. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Please limit your trips to 1 to the podium. And at this time, you may speak on anything you like. Podium's now open.
Penny Swan, Ward 4. Just to let you all know, Mr. Mackey knows and Jake knows, but Center City almost flooded again Thursday morning. So I don't know if they can look in the drains again. It didn't seem to be draining quite as fast as it had before, so just a concern. It was, luckily it stopped, or we would have had another flood.
That's too bad, Penny. Wasn't aware of that. Thank you. Any more public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the podium and move into the city manager's report. Dave.
Mayor, thank you. Just a few things to mention. For those who are here in person, we are working on the air condition situation. And hopefully for our next meeting, we will have air. Because of the age of the system and the specialty size, we've had to order a part, which was supposed to be shipped today. So once we get that, Jake and his crew will get that installed, and hopefully we will have air for our next meeting. Over this past week, the city staff put together a couple applications I wanted the council to be aware of. They are applying for CARE Act funds that were sent to the state of Michigan. One section there was 100 million, and the other was 200 million. That was divvied up primarily both for public safety. One is for providing the $1,000 hazard pay bonus for police and fire officers, that if that is awarded, then our active officers in both police and fire would be receiving that. And then the second part is actually reimbursing us for about 2 months worth of labor for police and fire, which totals about $235,000. So we got both applications submitted before the deadline of last Friday. So we're hopeful that we get those funds. Since they've been made available, we should take advantage and get our fair share if possible. And they're both specifically for public safety and first responders. Let's see. Executive order, we have had two executive orders that came out this past week. One was regard to providing service, Executive Order 153, providing service to those who come into the city buildings like a business as a customer to transact business. Under the executive order, Governor Whitmer has asked all businesses and government offices not to provide service to those who are not wearing face masks, or who they do have the exception that if you cannot medically wear one, then you don't have to. But she is expecting all businesses and government offices to ask if someone comes in and they're not wearing a mask, if it can be medically tolerated. That being said, we're doing our best to work around that executive order. And I've been working with the city attorneys. As you can see, not everyone here has a face mask, but based on legal opinion, this is different than transacting business as a customer. So they felt it was allowed based on the language of the order. The second executive order was on remote meetings, Executive Order 154. And basically that has given us the ability to have the remote meeting option until 28 days past the removal of the emergency order that has been put forth. So it looks like we'll have the ability to have people call in via GoToMeeting until things kind of settle down with COVID. So our plans would be to allow this for the public and for staff that can't make the meeting, moving forward until that time runs out. Lastly, on August 5th, we are having a Voice Your Vision meeting about 2325 North Broad Street that we tore down previously to get community input and discussions on that particular project. We'll also have the flyer in the next agenda, but I figured I'd mention it here since we've got it prepared already. With that, Mayor, that's what I had for this evening. If there's any questions.
Any questions for Dave? Councilman Sharp?
Two questions. Where do we stand with Myers? Have we heard anything more?
We have talked to them recently, and they couldn't give us an answer based on the fallout from COVID-19. So I really don't have anything for you there that I can update you on.
They have it's like 10 years to decide what we're going to do.
Yeah, there is a period of time, most definitely.
And the other question is, how are we doing on the fourth firefighter? Where's that process going?
Scott, do you want to touch base on this?
Sure. We went through the process with our current part-time firefighters. We had 3 apply. We did the oral boards with myself, Deputy Chief Mark Hawkins, and Laura Surgeon, City's Human Resources Officer. We performed an oral board, evaluated, offered a job to Matt Halleck, who he accepted, and he will be 2 weeks ago this Wednesday. So he started a full-time position. We're going through the training process with him right now.
That's good to hear. Thank you.
Any more questions for Dave? Thanks, Dave.
Yep.
We'll move on to council comment. Anybody got anything interesting or anything they want to say?
Mr. Mayor? Oh,
Councilman-
sorry.
I just want to say, I want to congratulate Hillsdale College on their way they handled the graduation up there. I concerned about why 1 minute I voted against it, I voted for it. I explained there's social distancing involved in it. I actually drove up there and looked at the football field, and I see the seating, how they had it all spread out, and I seen how they did everything, and I felt very comfortable with it. And I commend them for what they did. They actually went above and beyond. And that's great to see. They took it serious. And I do appreciate that.
They did. It was very safe. Councilman Stuchel?
Oh, I just wanted to add that St. Anthony's Youth Group is going to start this week. They're going to be painting a couple more murals over on St. Joe River. There's probably about 5 or 6 of them they're going to do. They're going to match the same color they did last year on Bacon, the big viaduct for the railroad tracks. And basically they're going to be river scenes, somebody kayaking, fishing, whatever. They normally do this for 5 days, but because of COVID, they're only going to do 2, and they're not going to be spending the night. So I want to thank Jake. He kind of gave us some supplies so my family could kind of get the embankments ready for painting. That's where we got them all scraped off and patched up the holes and got them primed. So they're going to start painting those tomorrow and Wednesday, I believe.
Okay, because I think I saw your wife
yes.
and your daughter
Yeah.
down on a bridge scraping.
So-
I wondered, I thought they must have been doing something artistic,
yeah.
I thought.
So it should be a nice little addition to just kind of clean those up a little bit.
That's exciting. Yeah, looking forward to that. Thank you, Councilman Stuchel. Any more council comment? Let's do it. Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilwoman Pratt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. This meeting's adjourned.